us a renowned poet, translator, and orator of Assam, Professor Diganta Biswal Sarma sir. A brief introduction about Sir. Professor Sarma is a professor of practice, Dibrugarh University, a Sahitya Academy Translation Awardee, and a devotee of Sri Aurobindo. Sir was born into a notable family, achieved academic and extracurricular excellence in his schooling and higher education, earning accolades and scholarships. Recently, Professor Sarma was conferred the honoris causa PhD by the Assam University Silchar at its 21st convocation held on 13 September 2024 for his contribution in the field of value-based education. Sir started his career as a district transport officer, but his profound interest in spirituality and philosophy led him to resign in 2012 to align his life with the teachings of Sri Aurobindo, Sri Ramakrishna, and Swami Vivekananda. As a prolific translator, he has translated significant works into Assamese, earning the Sahitya Academy Translation Prize in 2020 for translating Sri Aurobindo's The Foundations of Indian Culture. Professor Sarma's public speaking engagement on spirituality, Indian culture, education, and philosophy has garnered recognition, including invitations from the National Assessment and Accreditation Council. Further, his 4 poetry collections, namely Purbarat, Ontorda, Onunad, and Totibot, are under the process of printing. He has so far delivered more than 500 online and 150 offline talks delivered as speaker invitee at various levels, including college and university level academic lectures, showcasing his commitment to education. His involvement in university level academic initiatives and roles at Guwahati and Dibrugarh University as members of the executive councils underscores his dedication to academia. At present, he acts as a member, General Council and Executive Board, Sahitya Academy, New Delhi. He also acts as the convener, Assamese Language Advisory Board, Sahitya Academy. He is also the recipient of the Dr. Moidul Islam Bora Literary Award in 2022. Professor Sarma's influence extends beyond Assam, with invitations to speak at various institutions nationwide. His unique blend of academic excellence, literary contributions, and spiritual commitment positions him as a prominent figure in Assam's cultural and educational landscape. We are really thankful to Sir to accept our invitation and to enrich our newly admitted first-year students with his teachings. Now, I request our director, Dr. Prasenjit Talukdar, to felicitate Sir with a philanthropy. I request Sir to take the dice. Now I request our director to felicitate Sir with a Phulang dance. Now I request Sir to take over the session. Thank you.
Namaskar. Honorable Director Duiet, Dr. Prosenjit Talukdar, esteemed faculty members, and my dear students. Let me first clarify 2-3 things. Lecturing once a temperament in my tendency, in my nature, but now lecturing has almost become an integral part of my life, integral part of my sadhana. Neither am I a scholar, nor do I possess scholarship. Why then this audacity on my part? I have a sense of offering anything and everything. This is the first primary value for me, the primary value which I follow always. Whatever I do, whatever I think, I have a sense of offering at the lotus feet of the Supreme Divine Mother. And this sense of surrender is the sole source of my strength and audacity. So today I will be focusing on 5 areas, and it will be to some extent philosophical, because we are here to discuss about universal human values. And within 4 sessions, I am proposing to take up many things, but today basically it is a definitional session. It will be a definitional session, and it will be a sort of philosophical. And in this particular session, I will try to cover, whether it will be ultimately possible or not, I do not know, but I will try to cover firstly a very preliminary introductory definition about value, about universal human value. What is value? Second, I will be discussing the significance of human values. What is its significance in the contemporary world? Thirdly, I will try to discuss 3 specific issues. It will be followed by a discussion on 3 powers. And finally, if time allows me, then I will be discussing 5 necessities of values. But first, let me focus on what is student life. Is it only preparation for study? No, not at all. My first conception about student life is, it is a preparation for both study as well as life. It is not only preparation for study. It has to be a preparation for both study as well as life. Because you are here to prepare your life also. So this is the first lesson. The student life is a preparation. Preparation of both. Both means of life and study both. Then let me discuss about value education. What is value education? What is ultimately education? There are 2 values associated with education. One is called instrumental value of education. Other one is called intrinsic value of education. One is called instrumental value, and the other one is called intrinsic value of education. When education is pursued for purpose other than educational, and education is being used as an instrument, then it is called instrumental view of education. And when education is pursued only for the sake of educational purpose, for the knowledge purpose, then it is called intrinsic value of education. Both are necessary, instrumental as well as intrinsic value of education. So one of the intrinsic value of education is why we pursue education. Ultimately, one author, his name D.P. Chattopadhyay. Not only he, entire Indian knowledge system says the same thing, that learning and education are a journey. Not only a preparation for making ourselves fit for a career. Career is necessary. Career is necessary. But the intrinsic value of education says learning and education are a journey. Journey of what and from what to what? Learning and education are a journey from the darkness to light. From the darkness to light. First condition. Then it is also a journey from ephemeral to durable. Ephemeral to durable. It is also a journey from the perishable to imperishable. Perishable to imperishable. Actually, this is English rendering of a famous Sanskrit sloka. What is that sloka? You have perhaps, many of you have heard. Asato ma sadgamaya, tamasho ma jyotirgamaya, mrittur ma amritam gamaya. Why we are born in this earth? This is the only purpose. According to India, you may reject it, you may throw it away. India says, only India declares. No other countries, at least as far as my knowledge goes, no other country declares this goal as the goal of human life. But asato ma satgamaya, life has to be a journey from darkness to light. Life has to be a journey from darkness to light. Asato ma satgamaya. Tamasu ma jyotirgamaya. Tamasu ma jyotirgamaya means darkness to light. Asato ma satgamaya means from ephemeral to durable. Or you may call it from unreal to real. Unreal to real. And then mritturma amritam gamaya. Amritam is the imperishable. Amritam is the imperishable. So here Dr. D.P. Chattopadhyay writes from perishable to imperishable. Mritturma amritam gamaya. From mortality to immortality. So this is the intrinsic value of education. This is the first value, intrinsic value associated with value education. Whether you may accept it, you may throw it away. That is up to your wisdom only. Then, what is called value? What is value? What is called value? Is it desire? Is it need? Professor Chattopadhyay says, value means mulya in Sanskrit word. Value means mulya. In Sanskrit it is called mulya. Value means mulya. And which is ordinarily said to be value in English language. So value is actually mulya. But in English it is said as, or it is called in English as value. Value is mulya. And what is mulya? What is mulya? Mulya is related to mula. Mula means root. Mula means root. Mula means root. So, what is to be obtained from mula, that is to say root, this is value. What is to be obtained from the root of human life or the root of humanhood, what is to be obtained, this is called value. Because value is mulya. Mulya means mul. Mul means from source, from root, from source. So mulya, which is ordinarily said to be value in English language, is literally speaking what is to be obtained from the mula, that is to say root, or you may call from source. Source, root, or mool, these three are same thing. But then, whether in the context of learning or in some other related context, to get to the root of remaining content of an issue is both difficult and rewarding. It is not very easy to go into the root of a thing. But if you can go to the root of a thing, though it is difficult, it is rewarding also. It is difficult as well as rewarding. And when the concerned issue pertains to human being, the dedicated enterprise required to get to the root proves even more difficult and even more rewarding. So in case of human being, going to the root is more difficult, but as well as more rewarding. So whether you will go to the root or not, it's up to your wisdom. Now, then how value could be defined? How the word value could be defined? What is value? So here another writer, S. Oza, in his book Science and Technology and Human Values, he says, let us look at human values as a scientist looks at the phenomena he chooses for studying. What do you mean by human values then? What do you mean by human values? He says, first of all, this is something we appreciate or we want to have, we want to achieve. Very simple definition. What is value? What we want to appreciate, what we want to achieve, and what we want to have. So what we want to have is human value. What we want to achieve is human value. What we appreciate is human value. So values are something which qualify as good and are prepared to set as our goals in life. So value ultimately means our goals, our aims in life. But it's basic, he gives the formula, what we achieve, what we want to achieve, what we want to have, and what we want to appreciate is called human values. But then there is a danger. We want infinite satisfaction of our desire also. Will it be a value? Because as per the first definition, first formula, what we want to have more and more satisfaction of our desires. So satisfaction of desire, can it be called a human value? Because as per the first definition, what we want to appreciate, what we want to have, what we want to achieve is called human values. So necessarily we want satisfaction of our desires. We want to have a good career. We want to earn more and more money, rather infinite amount of money. We want power. We want fame, power. Will all those be also called human values? He says no. They are not human values. They are simply our needs. Why? He says, second, we usually do not include satisfaction of our physical needs into the concept. Physical needs into the concept. Into the concept means into the concept of human values. We do not usually include. Why? Because even though we appreciate it, satisfaction of desire, we want to appreciate it. We want to have it. We want to achieve it. Still, it is not called human values. Why? He says we usually do not include satisfaction of our physical needs into the concept, even though we appreciate it, even though we want to achieve it all the time, often simply in order to survive. but they are not called human values. They are simply our needs or over needs. They are not human values. But according to the definition he gives, what we want to appreciate, what we want to have, what we want to achieve should be called human values. According to that definition, satisfaction of human needs, rather infinite amount of human needs should also have to be called human values. But he says no. Satisfaction of human needs, we do not want to include this satisfaction of human needs into the concept of human values. Why? Then he gives another taste. Though his first criteria prevails, what we want to appreciate, what we want to have, what we want to achieve are called human values. But from the purview of these three things, satisfaction of human needs have been excluded. Why? He says it would be fair to say that the concept of values describe that part of our goals which are not immediately necessary for survival. So what will be called human values? Which are not immediately necessary for our survival. So food, shelter, career, these are immediate necessity for our own survival. So human values is something which is beyond our survival needs. Even without human values, we can well survive. But we cannot fulfill our life. We cannot fulfill our life. We cannot glorify our life. We can only live as an animal lives. So that is why the second criteria, those are only human values which are not immediately necessary for our very survival. So this is the another criteria. Then what are those values which are not immediately or urgently necessary for our very survival? He says we call this aspect of life as spiritual, which are not immediately necessary for our very existence, for our very survival. Why then human values are necessary? In order to fulfill our life, in order to fulfill the journey of life from asato ma sadgamaya, tamasu ma jyotirgamaya, mrittur ma amritam gamaya. Because only birth, growth and death, you cannot call it life. The journey from birth to death through growth cannot be called fulfillment of life. Life will be fulfilled when life will be a journey from unreal to real, from darkness to light, from mortality to immortality. Yes, one day we will become immortal even. Now we are only spiritually immortal because our soul is immortal. But one day, Indian spirituality says we will become immortal, even physically, not only spiritually. Right now we are Nara, one day eventually we will become Narottam, and one day we will become Narayan. According to India, who is human being? Gita says, Mama eva angsha sanatana. I am right now angsha sanatana, portion eternal. Portion eternal of whom? I am right now portion eternal of Sri Krishna. If right now I am portion, I must have the capacity to become full. I must have the capacity to become full. Because if you look at the past history of world, from inert material, from non-living material, plants were evolved. From plant, animal were evolved. From animal, mental consciousness were evolved. Then what is after mental consciousness? Or can we call it rationally that the evolution is complete, finished? If If stone can become plant, plant can become animal, animal can become man, then I can also become something higher than man. And this is what is called immortality. Right now I am Nara, one day I will become Narottam, and eventually I will become one day Narayan. This is the human journey. This is the sense of becoming Asato ma sadgamaya, Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, Mrittur ma amritam gamaya. আৰু এইখিনি কথাই মই আপোনালোকক অলপ অসমীয়াত কৈছোঁ। অসমত ৰূপ কোঁৱৰ জ্যোতিপ্ৰসাদে এই একেটা শ্লোককেই এটা অভিনৱ ধৰণে কৈ গৈছে। আপোনালোকে শুনিছে জ্যোতিপ্ৰসাদে কি কৈ গৈছে? কৈছে তোৰে মোৰে আলু কৰে যাত্ৰা, আমি পালোঁ জীৱনৰ অৰ্থ অভিনৱ। তোৰে মোৰে আলু কৰে যাত্ৰা, লাইফ হেজ টু বি এ জাৰ্ণি অফ লাইফ। মই কোৱা নাই, অসমত ৰূপ কোঁৱৰ জ্যোতিপ্ৰসাদে চিঞৰি গৈছিল তোৰে মোৰে আলু কৰে যাত্ৰা। তোৰে মোৰে মিনছ আৱাৰ কালেক্টিভ লাইফ, not only our individual life, even our collective life has to be a journey towards life. তোৰে মোৰে আলু কৰে যাত্ৰা, আমি পালোঁ জীৱনৰ অৰ্থ অভিনৱ। What is the meaning of জীৱনৰ অৰ্থ অভিনৱ? জীৱনৰ অৰ্থ অভিনৱ is nothing but অসতো মা সদ্গময়, তমসো মা জ্যোতিৰ্গময়, মৃত্যুৰ মা অমৃতম গময়। তাৰপিছত ৰূপ কোঁৱৰে আৰু এষাৰ কথা কৈ গৈছে, আপোনালোকে হয়তো মন দিয়া নাই। The chemistry cannot make our world beautiful. Even your engineering department cannot make our world beautiful. Because a rapist can also become a scientist. Is not it? A rapist can also become a physicist. But we do not, but a rapist cannot make our world beautiful. And because of that, Rup Kaur says that Rupantorehe Jagat Dunia Kore. Rupantorehe Jagat Dunia Kore. E Mur Gayatri Mantra. It is only transformation. Transformation of human consciousness. Transformation of human nature. Transformation of human life can make world beautiful. Not, I am saying, Jyoti Prasad had been saying, Rupantorehe Matu Jagat Dunia Kore E Mur Gayatri Mantra. And this Asato ma sadgamaya, Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, Mrittur ma amritam gamaya is nothing but a process of transformation. We are here to be born again. Why? Our biological birth is insufficient. After biological birth, we have to be reborn again here. We have to be reborn here again. And this rebirth is called transformation. And so he says that we call this aspect of life. This aspect of life means what we want to appreciate, what we want to achieve, what we want to have. But they are not immediately necessary for our very survival. This aspect of life is called spiritual, as opposed to the other aspect which are referred to as physical or biological. So biological needs, physical needs are not called human values. We do not include those things into the concept of human values. Although we want to have it, we want to achieve it, we want to appreciate it. Because human values are something which are beyond the necessity of our survival. And that is why Professor Sattopadhyay says it is difficult, it is very difficult, but at the same time it is rewarding also. Difficult as well as rewarding also. So then, now let me focus on why then value has become, why even AICT has introduced this induction course. Why they have included sessions relating to universal human values. They are aware that you are student of engineering. Still AICT has imposed on you that you are to be aware also of universal human values. Why? why it is so necessary that AICT is to impose these things on you. Another professor, late Professor Kirit Joshi, I have taken these things from another professor's work, mainly from the philosophy of Indian pedagogy, where he discusses the contemporary crisis of the world. What is the contemporary crisis of the world? Is it a political crisis? Is it an economical crisis? Is it a sociological crisis? Is it a military crisis? What sort of crisis is this? What type of crisis we are facing right now? Again, his explanation is based, his analysis is based on the writings of Maharishi Sri Aurobindo. Maharishi Sri Aurobindo, in his magnum opus Life Divine, says, at present humanity is undergoing an evolutionary crisis. Sri Aurobindo has used the word evolutionary crisis. What is the evolutionary crisis? There is a blockage in the universe, in the evolutionary process. Because very easily stone became plant became animal became man. But now man is giving tough resistance. Men do not want to be elevated. Men do not want to evolve further. And that is why Maharishi is using the word evolutionary crisis. So our present contemporary universal crisis is not political crisis, not economical crisis, not a crisis of poverty. It is fundamentally and basically a evolutionary crisis. And that thing, Professor Kirit Joshi has explained in a very simple terms. Let me explain. He says it is important to note that there is an increasing awareness both in India and the world that the contemporary crisis is fundamentally the crisis of disbalancement, disharmony, disbalancement. That means there is no balance, disbalancement. Contemporary crisis is fundamentally the crisis of disbalancement. Disbalancement between what? It's of an exaggerated development of outer structures and organizations on one hand, and the means of physical and vital satisfaction. Vital satisfaction means our emotional satisfactions, our urge for right, domination, power, fame, etc., etc. This is what is called vital satisfaction. So, and means of physical and vital satisfaction on the one hand, and the neglect of ethical and spiritual dimension of human life on the other. This scientific 21st century modern world, modern humanity has deliberately neglected the ethical side, has deliberately neglected the spiritual side on one hand, and on the other, an exaggerated development of our outer structure and organization have taken place, leading to a disharmony. Because there is no education of mind. Our mind is not so much of capable to maintain this outer civilization, because we are ethically very much poor. We are spiritually very much poor. Let me give one or two example. I think 2 years ago, in our Barak Valley region, one 10 years boy of a woman who worked in others' house committed suicide. 10 years old boy. Why? Because the mother could not provide him a mobile. This is the world we are living in. What is the value of this exaggerated development? A 10-year-old boy committed suicide because her mother could not provide him a mobile. And her mother is a maid, was a maid. It happened just 2 years ago, 2-3 years ago in Assam only. And it's just 6 months ago in Guwahati, an 85 years old woman committed suicide. Science has to give us answer. What the hell they are doing? What the meaning of this outer development of this world? Science has to give us answer. Why in this world 85-year-old woman had to commit suicide? Why 10 years boy had to commit suicide? Are we seeking this type of world? And that is why universal human values have been imposed on you. It is not your deliberate choice now. It has been imposed by AICT on you. It has been imposed on you. Because you are to look into those human values. Because chemistry, physics, mathematics, civil engineering, petroleum engineering cannot make our world beautiful. It is the only transformation of human mind, transformation of human consciousness, transformation of our nature can make our world beautiful. We are dreaming for a world, we are all working together for a better world only. And that is why universal human values have been imposed on you. So, and the neglect and the ethical and spiritual dimension of human life on the other. And this is the significance of imposing human values on you by AICTE. So therefore, here's of the crisis of character, crisis of values, and crisis of spiritual evolution. Why this is the crisis of character? Because there is a disharmony. Gripped as we are in this crisis, we are already gripped in this crisis. The crisis of character, crisis of value, crisis of spiritual evolution. And we are already gripped in this crisis. We are imprisoned. We are bound to look for the knowledge of ethics and spirituality. Humanity have been compelled. Humanity now have been compelled to look for the knowledge of ethics and spirituality, of values and of knowledge. Not only technical knowledge, philosophical knowledge, ethical knowledge, moral knowledge, because humanity have been compelled. That can bridge the gulf, because we are to bridge the gulf between the exaggerated outer development and the poor inner progress. Poor inner progress. We are to bridge the gulf between these two developments which are not in the equilibrium. There is a strong disequilibrium that can bridge the gulf between the life of matter and the life of spirit. And how this thing is being dealt in West and how we are dealing here in India. Professor Joshi says, in the West, increasing number of leaders are now speaking of return to basics, to root, to source. Increasing number of Western thinkers are talking about returning to basics. So increasing number of leaders are now speaking of return to basics. And in India, we have begun to conceive of programs of value education. So we have discovered the idea of value education, and in West, they are dealing with this contemporary issue by returning to the basics, by returning to the mula, by returning to the root, by returning to the source, returning to the basics. And here in India, we are trying to introduce value education. And value education is nothing but the intrinsic value of education. This subject has not yet received the attention that it deserves. Nation has not given so much of attention, as a desirable attention, the nation has not been paying to this important issue till today. But there is no doubt that under the pressure of circumstances of our enlightened foresight, when we shall explore this subject, we are bound to raise three important questions. As I talked about you, that I will be discussing three questions now. So this is the significance. This is the significance why value education has become so imperative, so necessary, because we are to bridge the gulf between our exaggerated outer development and the poor inner development. And in that process, Professor Kirit Joshi says, we are bound to raise three important questions, helpful answers of which will largely be found in our ancient Indian conception of education. And what is this ancient Indian conception of education? First, let me talk about this. Ancient Indian concept of education was consisting of three elements. But the modern education is consisting of only one aspect. And what is this aspect? It is the mastery of our subject. Chemistry, physics, mathematics, biology, political science, economics. Mastery of our subject is the primary focus of 21st century scientific modern educational pedagogy. But India dealt three things together. India was not careful about the study of subject. Yet India considered three elements. The whole Indian concept of education was consisting of three elements. Number one, as at the very outset I told you that the student life is a preparation for both study as well as life. So the first focus of ancient Indian educational vision was on the methodized organization of life towards its fulfillment. Not the subject, not the mastery of our subject. Life was paramount. Fulfillment of life was paramount. Life has to be fulfilled. So methodized organization of life towards its fulfillment. The first consideration, first element. And what is the second element? Not mastery of our subject, but integral knowledge. Integral knowledge. Why the word integral has been used? Because modern education is one-sided education. Why one-sided? Because modern education deals only with world knowledge. Because this chemistry is nothing but knowledge about the world. This physics is nothing but the knowledge about the world. Chemistry, economics, political science, these are only world knowledge. But India dealt with another two knowledge. What are those two areas? One is self-knowledge. Who am I? Who am I? Why I am at times, why I become so much greedy? How I can become a good man? What is my psychology? Why sometimes I become angry? So knowledge about the self. Because a perfected world cannot be created by man or composed of men who are themselves imperfect. Can you build a perfected world with imperfect humanity? No. So these are the two elements. Integral knowledge. That is why it is called integral knowledge. And the third thing is the knowledge about the ultimate reality. What is the truth of this existence? What is the ultimate truth of this? What is the ultimate truth of mystery of this human life? What is the truth of this existence? So these three elements constituted the concept of integral knowledge. Knowledge about the self, knowledge about the world, and knowledge about the ultimate reality. This is the second aspect of the ancient Indian vision of education. And what was the third? Third was manifestation of latent powers within the being. And the expression of perfection latent within the being. India claims, your tremendous powers is stored within you. Vivekananda says, what is education? One-liner definition Vivekananda gives. Education is the manifestation of perfection already in man. Perfection is already there within you, but it is veiled, it is covered. That has to be manifested. This is what is called education. And also, within you, there are so much of powers, so much of qualities. Everything within you has to be manifested. So these four things: methodized organization of life, integral knowledge, manifestation of powers within the being, and an expression of perfection within the being. Now you imagine what modern university gives you. Modern university gives you only a piece of paper. Only a piece of paper. And that piece of paper contains how much you have obtained in a particular subject. Now what? Now what you will be doing? You have to be a great job seeker. Because there is no alternative. Because no powers you have manifested from within. But just now compare a student of the ancient India. He was not a job seeker. Just imagine if my power is manifested, if I am aware of integral knowledge, if I have mastered the art of life and perfection has been manifested, why I will become a job seeker? I will become a job creator, like Jamsetji Tata. But today, the modern education is dealing only with mastery of our subject and thereby making you handicapped. And that is why we are not in a position to be a great entrepreneur. We all become, university are producing only job seeker. Why university has been miserably failed to produce entrepreneur? We now need Jamsetji Tata. Jadav Payeng is not a job seeker. Why? Because he has manifested his powers latent within the being. He is independent now. He is self-empowered. He is not a job seeker. Government goes to him because he has converted, he has transformed a desert into a forest. So ancient Indian education wanted her students to be self-empowered. Now you are being provided only with information. Your qualities has to be inculcated. The powers latent within the being has to be manifested. Necessary perfection has to be manifested. And you have to be provided with integral knowledge, not one-sided knowledge about the subject. Integral knowledge. Then you will become independent. Then you will become self-empowered. So, in that concept, now let me just, perhaps I will not be covering the other two aspects, which will be taken up tomorrow. So now let me discuss the three questions, necessary three questions. Necessary three questions. First, the first question will be related to the meaning of value itself. First question. particularly when they are not to be restricted only to the domain of morality. But value does not mean only morality. But morality, of course, is one of the elements of values, but not the whole of value, not the whole of the meaning of value. So, Kirit Joshi says, particularly when they are not to be restricted only to the domain of morality, but will extend to the domain of aesthetic and rationality. So, value has to be related to aesthetics, means Nandan Tattva, our Hondarjabodh, aesthetics, our rationality. Not only it has to be related only to morality. And even to the domain of supra-rationality, it is a difficult concept, so leave it. So these questions will also become complex when we come to consider the values of physical education, vital education, mental education in the context of integral development of personality and of the perfectibility of the individual and the collectivity. Because perfection is the agenda. Why we need all this value? Because we want perfected humanity. Because rapists cannot make world beautiful. So this is the first question associated with the value education or associated with the universal value concept. Universal human value concept. Because universal human value not to be necessarily related only to morality. It has to be related also to the domain of aesthetics and rationality also. It has also to be related to physical education, mental education, and vital education also. So this is the first question. The second question will be related to science and values. What is the connection between science and values? It is very much important for you. And when you will be appointed in a particular industry, you will have to go through many books relating to industry and ethics, industry and human values, technology and human values. Now all those things have been made compulsory because industry no longer can ignore the human values. It has been made compulsory. So the second question will be related to science and values, particularly when humanity is awaking to the necessity of directing scientific knowledge towards the goal of higher welfare of humanity. What we expect from science? We expect from science to satisfy all human needs. We expect from science to work towards the goal of welfare of humanity. And in that context, value education has become imperative. Why? Because this question will again become complex when we examine the claim of scientific knowledge. What is that claim of scientific knowledge? That knowledge by its very nature has to be scientific. Science is very arrogant, rather more arrogant than that of religious men. Science is also very dogmatic, very arrogant. Why? Because that knowledge by its very nature has to be scientific. Science does not consider non-scientific knowledge as knowledge. This is the greatest crime science has committed against the humanity. Science does not want to consider anything beyond scientific knowledge as knowledge. So that knowledge by its very nature has to be scientific, and the knowledge of values is not strictly speaking knowledge. Your science does not recognize value as a knowledge. That is the very, it will be a challenge for you. Science does not consider value system as a knowledge system. Science is very dogmatic, very arrogant, very conservative. The question will be whether this claim is sustainable in view of the growing idea, whether this idea of scientific world will be sustainable or not. It is to be seen. Because in view of the growing idea, what is that growing idea? That knowledge is not a matter of merely inductive and deductive process of thought. Because scientific knowledge is nothing but inductive and deductive thought. Beyond that, science does not want to accept anything as knowledge. This is the main problem with science. But that even instincts, desires, emotions, aspiration, faith and institution give clues to knowledge and are themselves imbued with knowledge. But science does not recognize it. This is the greatest tragedy of modern humanity. And that is why, perhaps, in spite of so much development of science, we have not seen a perfected world. We have not seen a beautiful world. Around us only rapists, whom we are seeing only corrupted peoples, rapists. Why? Because science does not want to give any importance to other knowledge which is not scientific knowledge. And what is scientific knowledge? Scientific knowledge is nothing but inductive and deductive knowledge. This is the greatest tragedy with modern humanity. And that is why value education has become more imperative to counter this scientific dogmatism. So this will necessarily lead us to the question of harmonizing positive knowledge with axiological knowledge. What is axiological knowledge? Simply, in one sentence, I am telling you, knowledge relating to philosophy, etc., etc. And what is positive knowledge? Positive knowledge means ultimately scientific knowledge. So why value education, why universal value has become imperative? Because these will necessarily lead us to the question of harmonizing. We are to harmonize between positive knowledge, that is to call scientific knowledge, and the axiological knowledge. Right now there is a tremendous gulf between positive knowledge and the axiological knowledge. Rather, scientific world does not recognize non-scientific knowledge as knowledge. And of developing in so this is the main reason. So this is the second question. And what is the third question? Third question, Professor Kirit Joshi says, value and self-knowledge. As initially we have stated that these three questions are intrinsically related to the ancient Indian educational vision. So how value is related to self-knowledge? How value is related to self-knowledge? We cannot ignore self-knowledge. Because the third question will be related to the relationship between self-knowledge and pursuit of values. Is there any connection between self-knowledge and the values? Professor Kirit Joshi says, yes, there is a relationship between self-knowledge and the values. And what is that relationship? Particularly when it is seen that pursuit of values demands increasing self-control and self-mastery. Is it not? Without self-control and self-mastery, can there be a successful pursuit of values? Because pursuit of values demands at once self-mastery and self-control. Without self-control and self-mastery, you cannot inculcate human values. Self-control and self-mastery are are almost compulsory. Without self-mastery and self-control, you cannot inculcate human values, and which is in turn related to self-knowledge. Because self-control and self-mastery is ultimately related to self-knowledge. So what it proves? Ultimately human values related to self-knowledge through self-control and self-mastery. Without self-mastery and self-control, I cannot inculcate human values. And without self-knowledge, I cannot become master of myself. I cannot become controller of myself. So for self-control and self-mastery, what I need self-knowledge. And without this self-knowledge, without this self-mastery and self-control, I cannot inculcate human values. So there is a direct relationship between human values and the self-knowledge. And again, another problem. Self-discipline cannot become perfect without true knowledge of the self. So self-control, self-discipline, self-mastery cannot be perfect without self-knowledge. Again, this question will become complex when it is realized that self-knowledge is intimately related to the world knowledge and the knowledge about the ultimate reality. Because self-knowledge is related to world knowledge. Because without regard to world knowledge, you cannot have perfect self-knowledge. You cannot have perfect self-knowledge. Again, world knowledge is dependent on the knowledge of the ultimate reality. So the ancient Indian concept of Indian integral knowledge includes self-knowledge, world knowledge, and the knowledge about the ultimate reality. So all are interconnected. And again, it will be seen that these questions will oblige us to converge upon the profound psychological, ethical, and spiritual knowledge which was so central to the ancient India's conception of education. Because ultimately, self-control and self-mastery is nothing but manifestation of perfection latent within the being. And you cannot become self-master, you cannot have self-mastery without manifestation of the latent powers within you. So you need powers also to become self-master. So ultimately, human values are related to methodized organization of life towards its fulfillment. Human values are also related to self-knowledge, world knowledge, and knowledge of the ultimate reality. And also, human values is related to manifestation of latent powers within the being, as well as the expression of perfection within the being. So let me conclude here today. Thank you. Anything, if you want to ask any question, you can ask. Anything if you want to. As I have already said you, so this session will be some sort of philosophical, because it is just introductory chapter. Anything if you want to ask, or you can pass comment, you can have interaction, you are most welcome. Perhaps nobody is interested, because nobody is interested, so I think we should conclude here. Or is there will you be asking anything?
As they are new, I think they are hesitating to ask the question.
You can ask anything. It is a free world. অসমীয়া, বাংলা, হিন্দী, ইংৰাজী চাৰিটা ভাষাতেই পাৰা সুধিব। অসমীয়া, বাংলা, ইংৰাজী, হিন্দী, মই অলপ চলপ বাংলাও ক'ব পাৰোঁ, অসমীয়াতো ক'বই পাৰোঁ, যিকোনো ভাষাত যিকোনো কথা। Even you can oppose my whole thing also. You have the full right that these are only nonsense you are talking. I have no problem. And why I am telling this thing? Another Indian knowledge. Let me tell you. আমি সকলোৱে জানো যে গীতাত শ্ৰীকৃষ্ণই অৰ্জুনক এইবিলাক আমি ভাৰতবৰ্ষৰ বিষয়ে জনা দৰকাৰ। ভাৰতবৰ্ষই আমাৰ মানুহক একো দিব পৰা নাই, কিন্তু এটা বস্তু পৃথিৱীৰ সকলো দেশতকৈ ভাৰতবৰ্ষই আমাক আটাইতকৈ বেছি দিছে, আন কোনেও দিব পৰা নাই, একদম হায়েষ্ট লেভেলত দিছে। আমি মোটামুটি জানো গীতাখনত 700 শ্লোক আছে, 700 শ্লোক আছে, 18 চেপ্টাৰ, আৰু তাত দুজনৰ মাজত কনভাৰচেশ্যন অনলি, শ্ৰীকৃষ্ণ, বিটুইন শ্ৰীকৃষ্ণ এণ্ড অৰ্জুন। অলপমান বাৰু সঞ্জয়ৰ 2-এটা শ্লোক আছে, যিহেতু সঞ্জয়ে সেইবোৰ কথা ৰিলে কৰিছিল ধৃতৰাষ্ট্ৰক। এই 700 শ্লোক কোৱাৰ পিছত নৰ্মেলি মই যে বাৰে বাৰে এটা কথা যে তোমালোকক কৈ আছোঁ যে ইউ কেন একচেপ্ট ইট, ইউ কেন থ্ৰ' ইট এৱে। ইট ইজ নট মাই নলেজ, ইট ইজ দি ফ্ৰীডম গিভেন বাই ইণ্ডিয়া টু দি হোল হিউমেনিটি। ইউ কেন ৰিজেক্ট ইট। শ্ৰীকৃষ্ণই অৰ্জুনক 18 নম্বৰ অধ্যায়ৰ 63 নম্বৰ শ্লোকত কৈছে যে গোপাই, তোমাকতো মই 700 শ্লোক ক'লোঁ, নাও হোৱাট ইউ উইল বি ডুইং। তুমি কল্পনা কৰচোন, তুমি যদি তোমাৰ ভাই, তোমাৰ লগৰ বন্ধু বা কাৰোবাক তুমি এদিন মাত্ৰ 2 ঘণ্টা তাক কিবা কথাত এডভাইচ কৰিছা, 2 ঘণ্টা এডভাইচ কৰাৰ পিছত লাষ্ট কথা তাক তুমি কি ক'বা? বোলে তুমি কিন্তু মোৰ এই কথাবোৰ মানিবা দেই, এটলিষ্ট 10% হ'লেও মানিবা, হয়নে নহয়? কৃষ্ণই অৰ্জুনক কি বুলি কৈছে জানা? খালি অনলি ওৱান পোলাইট ৰিকুৱেষ্ট কৈছে, মোৰ কথাবোৰ তুমি কেৱল বিবেচনা কৰিবা। কৈছে আফটাৰ ডিউ ৰিফ্লেকশ্যন, কৈছে যথেচ্ছি তথা কৰোঁ, যথা ইচ্ছা তথা কৰোঁ, তোমাৰ যি খুচি তুমি তাকে কৰা, ন' ইম্পজিশ্যন, এবছলিউট ফ্ৰীডম। খালি অনলি ওৱান ৰিকুৱেষ্ট ফ্ৰম কৃষ্ণ, যে আফটাৰ ডিউ ৰিফ্লেকশ্যন, যে তুমি অলপ মাত্ৰ বিফ'ৰ ৰিজেক্টিং মাই হোল টিচিং, অলপ তুমি নিজৰ মাজত অলপ কেৱল চেল্ফ ৰিফ্লেকশ্যন কৰিবা। দিছ মাষ্ট দি মানে ৰিকুৱেষ্ট এট দি 18 চেপ্টাৰ। আৰু এই স্বাধীনতা কোনো ধৰ্মই, কোনো ধৰ্মৰ মানুহক দিয়া নাই, কোনো পৃথিৱীত কোনেও কাকো দিব পৰা নাই। বাপেকেও পুতেকক দিব পৰা নাই, শিক্ষকেও ছাত্ৰক দিব পৰা নাই, গুৰুৱেও ছাত্ৰক দিব পৰা নাই, একমাত্ৰ শ্ৰীকৃষ্ণই অৰ্জুনক দিছে। আৰু সেই স্বাধীনতাৰ আমি তাৰ মৰ্ম ৰক্ষা কৰিব পাৰিব লাগিব, কাৰণ মই সেইখন দেশৰ নাগৰিক, মই সেইখন দেশৰ সন্তান। গতিকে মোৰ কথা যদি ইয়াত কোনোবাই কয় যে ছাৰ আপুনি চব ষ্টুপিড কথা কৈছে, বোগাছ কথা কৈছে, এইবোৰ কথা কোনো ভেলু নাই, আই ডোণ্ট হেভ এনি অবজেকশ্যন, কোনো অবজেকশ্যনেই মোৰ নাই। এতিয়া যদি কোৱা তেতিয়াহ'লে সাহস যদি আছে, হা ঠিক আছে, আমি শেষ কৰিছোঁ তেতিয়াহ'লে। ঠিক আছে, ঠিক আছে। নহয়, এইটো চবতকৈ ডাঙৰ কথা যে AICT এইবোৰ কথা কিয় ক'ব লগা হৈছে। জাষ্ট ইমাজিন, আমি আজি 12 পাছ কৰি ইয়াতে আমি নামভৰ্তি কৰিছোঁ, আমি এইবিলাকৰ বিষয়ে আমি অলপমানো আমাক চিন্তা কৰিবলৈ কোনেও কোৱাই নাই। তাৰমানে আমাক মানুহতকৈ গ্ৰেটাৰ হিউমেন কৰিব খোজা হৈছে, নে আমাক আকৌ পশুত্বলৈকে লৈ যোৱাৰ ষড়যন্ত্ৰ চলিছে? কিয় AICTয়ে হিউমেন ভেলুজ ইম্প'জ কৰিব লগা হৈছে? আমি সেই কথাটোৰ বিষয়ে অলপ চিন্তা কৰাটো দৰকাৰ। থেংক ইউ।